The tray trembled in her hands when Jada saw the cut, a black leather vest with a flaming skull stitched across the back. The letters Hell's Angels screamed danger, stitched in blood-red thread. Her stomach dropped. Her feet paused just before the edge of the booth, but her eyes locked on the man sitting there, soaked from head to toe, rainwater dripping from his sleeves. The biker looked more ghost than human. Gaunt cheeks, yellowing skin, trembling fingers. His knuckles were scraped and swollen like he hadn't slept or eaten in days. Jada glanced behind her. The kitchen staff was busy, shouting orders. No one was looking, not even the manager. She turned back to the man. This wasn't some tattooed monster or reckless outlaw. This was a man falling apart, quietly, alone. She gently set the tray down in front of him. Double burger, fries, and black coffee, hot, just like you asked. The man's eyes didn't rise, but his voice came low and gritty. "Thank you, ma'am." Jada nodded and walked away, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She hadn't asked permission, hadn't followed policy, but she also hadn't been able to ignore a starving man. She hoped that wouldn't cost her, but hope was never enough to. Hours later, her name blared through the old diner speaker above the fry. Station Jada Owens, manager's office. Now, her chest tightened. She wiped grease from her hands, tucked her curls behind her ears, and walked past the dishwasher, toward the back office. Tom, the manager, sat behind the desk, chewing a toothpick and avoiding eye contact. But beside him stood someone Jada had never seen before, a tall, sharp-looking man in a blazer, holding a clipboard and a tablet. The regional supervisor. Her throat went dry. On the monitor behind them, paused in full view, was a still frame of her handing the tray to the biker. The Hell's Angels patch was crystal clear. "Is this you?" the supervisor asked flatly. Jada swallowed. "Yes," Tom chimed in, voice sharp. "You served a biker in full colors. You know that's against policy. You saw the sign." "He didn't threaten anyone," she replied. "He looked sick. I just thought." "We don't pay you to think," Tom snapped. The supervisor didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His tone was surgical. "This is a violation of Code 7, endangering staff and patrons. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately." Jada blinked. No warning. No hearing. Just a form, shoved across the desk toward her. "Already signed." "I've worked here 9 years," she whispered. "Then you should have known better," Tom said coldly. Outside the sun was gone. Rain fell in sheets. Jada sat in her rusted Corolla for over an hour, staring at her reflection in the rearview mirror. A single mother, fired, broke, with rent due, and her son Malik, still at after-school care. She didn't cry at first. She just gripped the steering wheel and whispered, "What now?" Then the tears came, and they didn't stop. That night, she found the eviction notice folded between junk mail. Final warning. Rent 2 weeks overdue. She opened the fridge. Half a carton of milk, 1 egg, and a bottle of ketchup. The universe was folding in on her. Her kindness had cost her everything. She heated up the cold onion rings in the microwave, burned her finger taking them out. Then she sat in silence, chewing and crying at the same time. That's when she heard the knock. 3 heavy bangs on the door. She froze, looked through the peephole. Another biker, older, bearded, tattoos creeping up his neck like ivy, wearing the same patch. Hell's Angels. Her breath caught. She could call the police, or hide, or pretend she wasn't home. But something in her gut, the same gut that told her to serve that man, whispered again, "Open it." So she did. Just a crack. The biker didn't look angry. He looked calm. "Matter of fact, you Jada, who's asking?" she said quietly. He held up a plain brown paper bag. "Ryder told us what you did. Said you were the only person who treated him like a human being." Her face softened. She whispered, "The guy I served." The man nodded. "He's sick. Stage 4 cancer. Didn't tell anyone, just disappeared from the clubhouse. Said if he died, he wanted to go with dignity." Jada said nothing. "He didn't die," the man added, "yet, but he's close. Told us what happened. What you lost." She blinked. "What is this?" He held out the bag. She took it slowly. Inside were bundles of cash, neatly wrapped, heavy. Her knees nearly buckled. "I can't take this." "You already did," he said calmly. "Ryder's orders." Then he turned and walked away, helmet on, rain bouncing off his shoulders. The next morning, A sleek black van rolled into the diner's parking lot. 2 men in suits stepped out. Jada, watching from across the street, felt her jaw drop. They didn't look like bikers. They looked like lawyers. Or agents. Within 15 minutes, Tom, her old manager, stormed out of the diner, red-faced and holding a cardboard box. She had no idea what just happened, but somehow, she wasn't the one who lost this time. That evening, she told Malik they'd be okay, that she'd find another job. She didn't mention the biker, or the cash, or the men in suits. She just hugged him tight and watched cartoons with him like nothing had changed, even though everything had. But the biggest shock came 2 days later. Another knock. This time, it wasn't a biker. It was a man in a black suit, with piercing eyes and a leather briefcase. He held up a photo of her, grainy, from the diner's camera. "This is you, right?" he asked. Jada nodded. He handed her a key. "To what?" she asked. The man gave her a small smile. "To the past," he said. "Ryder made arrangements. You're part of them now." Jada stared at the key in her palm. 1,000 questions screamed in her mind, but only one echoed loudest. What exactly did I just get pulled into? Single black mom feeds a Hells Angels biker, then gets fired. The key was old, cold metal with a worn handle, attached to a black leather tag. No label, no explanation. Jada turned it over in her palm a dozen times after the suited man left. He hadn't given her much, just that Ryder had unfinished business and had left instructions. He said someone would contact her again in a few days. That was it. She didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed with the key on the nightstand, staring at the ceiling while Malik snored softly in the other room. Her mind buzzed. What was this key for? A safe, a locker, a storage unit, a trap? She didn't know Ryder. She barely remembered his face. He had eaten a burger, thanked her, and left. That was it. One small act of kindness. And now her life was being dragged into something bigger than she could see. She sat up, wrapped her fingers around the key again, and whispered to herself, "What did I just step into?" 2 days passed. No calls. Knocks. Just silence. Jada started cleaning apartments part-time with her neighbor Tonya. It didn't pay much, but it kept food on the table. Malik went to school. Life seemed to slow until it didn't, because on the third night, a letter arrived. No stamp, just slid under her door. Plain white envelope. Inside was a map, a hand-drawn sketch of a warehouse, coordinates written in blue ink. One line at the bottom, Unit 47, trust your gut. Her hands trembled. She wanted to toss it, pretend she never saw it, but something deep inside wouldn't let her. That part of her that knew when something was wrong, or right. The same gut that told her to feed Ryder in the first place. That same instinct told her, go. The warehouse was on the edge of the city, tucked between rusting train tracks and an old lumber yard. She borrowed Tanya's car while Malik was at school and followed the map. It was quiet, too quiet. She parked near the back, heart thudding in her chest. Every horror story she'd ever heard screamed in her mind. She walked through rows of old units until she reached Unit 47. The number was faint, almost scratched off, but there, her fingers fumbled as she slid the key into the lock. Click. The door creaked open. Dust danced in the sunlight pouring through a broken window. The room was mostly empty except for one thing, a black metal locker. On top of it, another note taped with electrical tape. You fed a dying man. He didn't ask why. That matters. Jada slowly opened the locker. What she saw inside made her stumble back. Bundles of cash, neatly stacked, rubber-banded, clean. On top, a manila folder. She pulled it out, hands shaking. Inside were legal documents, hospital records, and something else. A letter. Jada, if you're reading this, it means I'm probably gone. They call me Ryder, but I had another name once. Daniel Beckett. You don't know me, but I know your face. I knew your mama. Long time ago, before I ever touched a bike, or knew what meth tasted like. Before the wars, before the mistakes, you showed me kindness when no one else would. Not because you knew me, just because I looked hungry. You reminded me who I was before the cuts and the chaos. I never said it, but that burger, that moment, saved me. Not my life, my soul. So I'm leaving you something, not just cash. That's easy. I'm leaving you access to something most people in my world never get. Freedom. Inside this locker is enough to clear your debt, get Malik into a better school, and give you a fresh start. No strings, no payback. I owed your mama something a long time ago. I never paid that debt. Maybe this is me trying to fix that. Use it, or don't. Just know someone saw you when you thought you were invisible. Ryder Daniel Beckett. Jada sat on the floor for almost 20 minutes, the letter pressed against her chest. She wasn't just helping a stranger, she had unknowingly stepped into a story much older than she realized. Her mother, who died of a stroke 6 years ago, had secrets she never shared. Jada wiped her tears. She looked at the documents. One was a property deed, another, an access code to a bank account, and a third was a list of names. Some crossed out, some not. Every one of them had something in common. They had hurt Ryder, or betrayed him, and now, only 2 names remained at the bottom: Tom Greeley and Russell Crane. Tom was her former manager, but who was Russell Crane? That night, Jada couldn't shake the feeling that Ryder hadn't just left her money, he'd left her something much more dangerous. His unfinished war. She didn't want revenge, she didn't want trouble, but a voice inside her whispered louder than her fear, "You already opened the door." 2 days later, she got a call from an unknown number, a woman's voice, calm, low. "You have the folder, don't you?" Jada froze. Who is this? Someone who used to ride with him. He trusted you. That means something. What do you want? We're not all bad, Jada. But Russell Crane, he's worse than you know. Jada looked at the folder again, at the names, at the cash. The woman continued, "If you're really in, meet us at the Westport Motel. Tomorrow, room 11, noon." Before she could respond, the call ended. Jada sat in her apartment with the envelope, the cash, and the key that had started all of this. She thought she was feeding a hungry biker. Instead, she had stepped into a life she never asked for, and a past tied to her mother, her community, and a war between men who wore leather and bled. Secrets. The door was open. She had to decide whether to walk through it. Single black. Mom feeds a Hells Angels biker, then gets fired. The Westport Motel sat at the edge of town like a forgotten memory. Peeling paint, flickering neon sign, and a front office that smelled like old cigarettes and desperation. Jada parked across the street, engine still running. She hadn't told anyone where she was going. Not Tanya, not Malik, not even herself. Really, she could have turned around, walked away, pretended none of this happened. But every time she thought about it, Ryder's letter echoed in her head. "You reminded me who I was before the chaos." If she could do that for someone like him, someone broken, dying, feared, then maybe she was stronger than she thought. At 11:59, she turned off the ignition. At 12 o'clock sharp, she knocked on room 11. The door opened a few inches. A woman stood on the other side, tall, maybe mid-40s, with dark eyes that had seen too much and lips that didn't smile easily. Her hair was tied back in a tight braid, and a faint tattoo peeked out from under her collar. "You're early," the woman said. "I'm on time." The woman nodded and stepped aside. The room was small, one bed, old carpet, the hum of a window AC unit. Sitting on the edge of the bed was a man Jada hadn't seen before, bald, muscular, arms crossed like he didn't trust anyone, not even the woman next to him. "This is Cole," the woman said. "I'm Marcy. We rode with Ryder for 20 years. Jada stood silently, heart racing. "You brought the folder?" Marcy asked. "Jad." I pulled it from her bag, but didn't hand it over. "I want to know what this is before I hand anything to anyone." Cole snorted. "She's got fire, just like her mother." Jada blinked. "You knew my mom?" Marcy nodded slowly. "She saved Ryder once, before he was Ryder, before any of us were who we are now. Your mom was different, kind, smart, but strong. She walked away from this life. Most people don't get that chance." Jada's throat tightened. All these years, her mother's past had been a locked door. Now that door was swinging wide open, and behind it were things Jada wasn't sure she wanted to see. Marcy sat down. Her tone turned serious. "Russell Crane was the reason Ryder left the club." Jada leaned in. "Who is he?" "Ex-leader of a rival chapter. Dirty, dangerous, smart. He built an empire, trafficking stolen weapons, used the club as cover, but Ryder figured him out, tried to stop it, almost got himself killed. That's when he disappeared." Cole added, "We thought Ryder was dead. Turns out, he just ran, changed names, hid. But even dying, he didn't forget. That list he gave you, that's unfinished business." Jada's hands trembled. I'm not part of this. I didn't ask for revenge. No, Marcy said calmly, but you're already in it. Tom, your old manager, he laundered money for Crane. Ryder found out. That's why you were fired. Not because of a burger. Because you crossed into Crane's world without knowing it. Jada's heart dropped. You saying, my job, my rent, all of it was taken from me because of him? Cole nodded. Crane protects his money. Anyone who interferes pays. Jada stared at the folder in her lap. This wasn't about kindness anymore. This was about survival. Marcy stood up. We're not asking you to fight him. We're asking you to help us finish what Ryder started. How? Cole pulled out a tablet. On the screen was security footage, grainy but clear enough to see a man in a grey suit entering a warehouse. That's Crane, Marcy said. That building is where he keeps his real records, the ones that can bury him. We've tried to get in before, Cole said, but we never had a reason to. Now we do. Jada shook her head. I'm not a spy, I'm a mom. Marcy looked her in the eye. And that's exactly why he won't see you coming. That night, back home, Jada sat on the floor while Malik did his homework on the couch. She stared at the folder again. At Ryder's letter. At her mother's name scribbled on the back of one document. Property witness, Lydia Owens. She had questions no one alive could answer. And more than that, she had a choice. She could walk away, or she could finish what her mother never told her she started. 2 nights later, Jada drove to the warehouse district. She wore a UPS uniform Marcy had given her, a borrowed name tag, brown hat, fake smile. The plan was simple. Deliver a fake package, slip a GPS tracker inside, and walk out. Easy, clean. She wasn't prepared for what happened next. A security guard opened the side door. Grumpy, disinterested. Got a delivery for Russell Crane, Jada said, forcing calm. The man waved her in. Office is down the hall. She stepped inside. The hallway was lined with metal doors. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. As she reached the office door, it opened, and there he was, Russell Crane. Tall silver hair slicked back, expensive watch, .com eyes that looked like they never blinked. He looked her up and down. New driver, he asked. Jada nodded. First week, he smiled faintly. Well, you made it here. That's better than most. She handed him the box. Sin here. He took the pen, then paused. What's your name? Her heart pounded. Jessica. He smiled wider, but something shifted in his eyes. Then, he dropped the pen. On purpose. Oops, he said. Would you mind picking that up? Jada bent down, heart hammering. And that's when she saw it under the desk. A silver briefcase, with her name on a printed label. Jada froze. Before she could react, a pair of hands grabbed her from behind. Single black mom feeds a Hells Angels biker, then gets fired. Jada's scream never left her throat. The hand clamped over her mouth was calloused and cold, yanking her backward with force she couldn't fight. Her legs kicked, arms flailed, but within seconds she was dragged into a side room off the corridor and shoved hard into a chair. The door slammed shut. Russell Crane stood there, calm as ice, his suit unwrinkled, his smile gone. The man who grabbed her, the same guard who had let her in, stood beside the door like a statue. No emotion, no reaction. Jad, a single quote as chest heaved. What is this? She gasped. Crane adjusted his cufflinks like they mattered more than anything she had to say. You're Jada Owens, he said coolly. Single mom, fired waitress, lives off Franklin Avenue, son named Malik, 11 years old, smart kid. Jada's stomach twisted. I asked you your name earlier, Crane continued, and you said Jessica. That was your first mistake, lying to a man who already knows who you are. She tried to stand. The guard pressed her back down with one hand. Crane stepped closer. I don't like games, Ms. Owens, and I really don't like it when amateurs try to play spy. Jada locked eyes with him. I was delivering a package. Crane chuckled, with a GPS tracker inside. He pulled the tiny device from his pocket and held it between 2 fingers. I've seen more creative attempts. You're lucky I find this amusing. You know who I am, Jada said, voice shaking. Then you know what happened to Ryder, what he tried to stop. Crane's eyes hardened. Daniel Beckett was a ghost clinging to memories. He had his chance. He walked away from the table. You destroyed his life. No, Crane said sharply. He destroyed it by thinking he was better than the people who kept him alive. Jada leaned forward. Then why are you afraid of me? Crane stared at her, not blinking, not smiling. Then he reached into his desk drawer and pulled out a photo. It was her from the diner, handing Ryder the tray. "You've become a symbol," he said. "Do you understand what that means? One woman, acting out of kindness, set off a chain reaction I didn't anticipate. And now, you're a problem." Jada's voice cracked. "Then, what are you going to do? Kill a mother? In broad daylight? You think that ends well for you?" Crane didn't answer. He just studied her, calculating, weighing something in silence. Then he stood, and to her shock, he opened the door. "You're going to leave now," he said, "because if anything happens to you, your face, this photo becomes public. Your story spreads, and people start asking questions. I don't need that." Jada stayed seated, confused. "But make no mistake," he continued, leaning in, "if you cross into my world again, you won't walk out." He motioned to the guard. "Escort her out, and make sure she's not followed." Back outside, Jada's legs shook as she reached Tanya's borrowed car. Her hands fumbled the keys. She wanted to scream, cry, throw something, but all she did was sit, staring at her. Reflection. Crane knew her. He had eyes everywhere. He knew about Malik. That realization hit harder than anything else. This wasn't just Ryder's unfinished war anymore. Now it was hers. That night, Jada didn't sleep. She sat at the kitchen table, folder spread out before her. Ryder's letter, the list of names, the deed, the photos, the briefcase. Crane had shown her what kind of man he was, and he'd made one mistake. He didn't believe she'd fight back. The next morning, she met Marcy and Cole in the back of a gas station parking lot. No one said anything at first. Then Jada dropped the photo Crane had given her on the hood of Cole's truck. He knew. "He's watching me. Probably you too." Marcy cursed under her breath. "He let me go," Jada added, "but not out of mercy. Out of calculation." Cole nodded. "That's worse. I want to take him down," Jada said. "Not for Ryder. Not even for my mom. For Malik. Because I'm not raising him in a world where monsters like that get to rule." Marcy exchanged a glance with Cole, then reached into her glove box. She pulled out a black USB stick. "This," she said, "has the location of Crane's backup drive, the one he doesn't even keep at the warehouse. It's off-grid, buried in a storage container deep in Red Valley." "How did you get that?" Jada asked. "Ryder," Marcy replied. "He got it before he went off the radar. Said one day someone would come along who could finish what he started. I think that's you." Jada took the drive. Her fingers were steady now. "What's on it?" "Names, dates, bribes, police, judges, maybe even feds. If that gets out, Crane burns." That afternoon Jada packed 2 bags, one for her and one for Malik. She picked him up early from school, heart pounding, but smiled like everything was fine. "Where are we going?" Malik asked. "On a little trip," she replied. "Just us." They drove west, past city limits, past cell service, past Doubt by sunset. They reached Redmont Valley, a place forgotten by most maps. Jada parked behind an old barn and met Marcy and Cole by a rusted gate. The container was hidden behind stacks of wood and covered with tarp and brush. Cole pried the door open with a crowbar. Inside, dust, cobwebs, and a steel safe bolted to the wall. Jada entered the code Ryder had written in the margin of his letter. The green light flashed. Click. The door opened. The door opened. Inside was a hard drive, a revolver, and a letter with her name on it. She opened the letter. "If you're reading this, you made it further than I ever did. You're braver than I was, stronger than most. You've got the heart your mother had. I didn't leave you a war. I left you the tools to end one. Use them well." Ryder. Jada folded the letter and wiped her eyes. She handed the hard drive to Marcy. "Make sure this gets to the right people." Marcy nodded. Cole asked, "What about the gun?" Jada looked at it, thought about Crane, thought about Malik. Then shook her head. "I'm not like him." But later that night, as she tucked Malik into a motel bed, her phone lit up. Unknown number, a single message. "You think this is over, little girl? I never forget." It was from Crane. And in that moment, Jada knew he wasn't going to let her walk away quietly. Single black mom feeds a HELLS Angels biker, then gets fired. Jada stared at the message glowing on her phone screen. "You think this is over, little girl? I never forget." She didn't need a name to know who it was from. Crane. Her fingers hovered over the reply button, but she knew better than to answer. The man didn't want a conversation. He wanted to rattle her, make her feel cornered, afraid, powerless. But Jada Owens had already lost her job, her reputation, and nearly her peace. She was done being afraid. She looked over at Malik fast, asleep in the motel bed, curled up with his favorite blanket. His tiny chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. She slipped her phone into the drawer, walked into the bathroom, and splashed cold water on her face. Staring at her reflection, she whispered to herself, "You wanted a fight, Crane. Now you've got one." The next morning, Jada met Marcy and Cole at a coffee shop 2 towns over. Marcy looked over the footage from the hidden warehouse drive, already decrypted and stored in multiple places. It was more than they imagined. Payoffs to judges, police, chief bank transfers, a list of safe houses and stash spots. Names, big ones, people with clean reputations who were dirty to the core. Cole shook his head, flipping through screenshots. If even half of this goes public, Crane's empire burns. But he knows we have it, Jada said. He won't wait for the fire. He'll try to snuff it out at the source. Us. Marcy nodded. Then we move first. Jada leaned in. I want to take him down the same way he built his power publicly, loud, where everyone sees it. Marcy smiled. I like the way you think. By that evening, Jada had made a call to someone she never thought she'd need again. Her cousin Kenya, a tech journalist in Atlanta, with a sharp tongue and a reputation for chasing corruption. Like bloodhounds chase scent, Kenya didn't hesitate. "You're telling me you've got hard proof on Russell Crane? Girl, you're trying to get us both killed or famous." "Maybe both," Jada said. They agreed to meet in person. No calls, no emails, just real eyes, real voices. 2 days later, in a secure office building in Atlanta, Kenya sat at a long conference table, reviewing the files Marcy and Jada had collected. Her expression shifted from curiosity to disbelief to cold fury. "This man bought judges," she said, tapping her finger on one document. "He buried witnesses, framed others. This isn't just biker gang crime. This is organized government-level corruption." Jada nodded. "That's why I need you. You're the only one who can take this to the world." Kenya smirked. "Then let's blow it up." They built a strategy, a coordinated press release with supporting evidence, a live-streamed interview, a dead man's switch drive to leak everything if anything happened to Jada or Kenya, and a full media blast with images, audio, and financial data that tied Crane's crimes to powerful public figures. The plan was set. 1 week from today, the world would know the truth. But Crane moved faster. That night, after returning to the motel, Jada found the door cracked open. Her heart stopped. She rushed inside. Malik. The room was ransacked. The mattress flipped, the TV smashed, and Malik was gone. On the bed, taped to the pillow, was a note. "Now it's personal. Come alone. No cops. Warehouse, 7 p.m. If you want your boy to live." Jada collapsed to her knees. She screamed, raw, guttural, shaking as she clutched the pillow. This wasn't about justice anymore. This was war. 30 minutes later, she met Marcy and Cole. She held up the note with trembling fingers. "He has Malik." Cole's knuckles turned white. "That coward." Marcy's voice was firm. "We go with you." "No," Jada said. "I go alone. If he sees anyone else, Malik could die." "You think he's going to let you walk out?" Marcy said. "I don't think he plans to let anyone walk out," Jada replied. Marcy pulled out a small mic. "At least let us wire you. If things go bad, we move in." Jada nodded, holding back tears. They strapped a recorder under her shirt. Cole slid a burner phone into her pocket. Marcy looked her in the eye. "If you don't come out in 10 minutes, we're coming through the wall." Jada forced a nod. "Just make sure Malik walks out." 7 p.m. The warehouse loomed like a skeleton against the orange glow of dusk. Silent, still. Jada walked in slowly, every footstep echoing like a drumbeat. Crane stood in the center of the room, hands behind his back. Malik sat tied to a chair, ducked, tape over his mouth, eyes wide with terror. Jada's voice cracked. "I'm here." Crane smiled. "You're braver than I expected." "Let him go," she said. "I will," he replied. "When you give me the drive." "I don't have it." Crane tilted his head. "Wrong answer." He nodded to one of his men, a tall, scar-faced thug, holding a crowbar. Jada stepped forward. "Stop. You hurt him. You'll never get what you want. That drive is everywhere. Online, cloud backups, dead man switches." Crane's jaw tightened. "You kill me," Jada continued. and the world knows everything with your face on it. Crane slowly turned to face her. You think I care about exposure? No, she said. But your clients do. Your judges, your partners, the men behind you. They'll bury you to protect themselves. For the first time, Crane hesitated, and that's when the power cut out. Darkness. Screams. Gunshots outside. Crane spun, shouting orders. Then a crash. The back wall exploded. Inward. Cole, Marcy, armed, ready. The fight erupted fast in the chaos. Jada ran to Malik, tore off the duct tape, untied him, and whispered, "Run, baby, get to the truck." But Crane lunged toward, her face twisted. Gun in hand. Bang. The shot rang through the warehouse. Crane collapsed, clutching his side. Jada stood, gun shaking in her hands. She had picked it up from the floor. She hadn't even realized. Crane groaned, coughing blood. You were just a waitress. Jada stepped closer, voice trembling but sure. No, I'm a mother. Sirens wailed in the distance. Blue and red lights painted the warehouse walls, like broken strobe lights as the police convoy descended. Jada stood frozen over Russell Crane, her hands still trembling from the shot. The gun had slipped from her fingers the moment he hit the ground. Malik was already outside, safe in Marcy's arms, crying but alive. Cole had disarmed Crane's men, holding one at gunpoint, while the others lay groaning or unconscious across the concrete. Jada breathed in gasps, adrenaline pulsing like electricity through every inch of her body. Her ears rang, her vision blurred, and yet her heart was clear. She hadn't meant to shoot, but she hadn't missed. Crane lay on the floor, blood seeping into the cracks of the concrete, muttering curses through clenched teeth. "Look at you," he growled. "You think this makes you powerful? You're still nothing." Jada stepped closer, not afraid now, not anymore. "I was nothing to people like you, and look what you did with your everything." Crane's eyes flickered, dark and bitter, as the police burst through the front entrance. Hands up. Cole raised his arms. Marcy did the same. Jada stood still, not moving until one officer gently pulled her back and pushed her toward the wall. Malik ran to her and hugged her legs tight, crying into her jeans. "I'm okay, baby," she whispered, running her hand over his head. "We're okay now." The aftermath came fast. Crane was taken into custody with multiple charges, including kidnapping, racketeering, attempted murder, and federal-level corruption. But more than that, the hard drive, secured by Kenya, had already been leaked. Within 48 hours, news headlines exploded. Crime empire exposed. Politicians, judges, and gangs all connected. Corrupt power players face indictment after bombshell leaks. Single mothers. Act of kindness leads to massive federal investigation. TV crews swarmed Jada's neighborhood. She didn't speak to them. She didn't want fame. She wanted peace. 3 weeks later, she sat on the porch of a new home, a quiet little house in the suburbs outside Atlanta, paid for not by blood money, but from a foundation Kenya had started in Ryder's name, the Beckett Fund, supporting single parents affected by crime and injustice. Ryder's name, once feared and whispered, was now written in full-on, a plaque hanging in the city's non-profit office. Jada sipped sweet tea as Malik rode his bike up and down the driveway, his laughter echoing against the trees. She watched him with eyes still shadowed by everything she'd been through, but now glowing with something she hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. She was safe. He was safe. They had survived. Later that evening, she opened the last envelope from Marcy, one she had been too afraid to read. Inside was a faded photo, her mother and Ryder, younger, laughing, standing beside a beat-up motorcycle. On the back, her mother's handwriting read, "He's lost, but he still has a heart. Maybe one day someone will find it again." Jada closed her eyes and whispered, "I did, Mama. I found it." 2 months passed. Jada got a job, a real one, not in food service, not scrubbing toilets. She became an advocate, helping single mums get housing, legal support, and job placement through the Beckett Fund. People started recognizing her, but what mattered most wasn't the attention. It was watching other women realize they didn't have to be invisible anymore. One morning, a young woman walked into the office, nervous, tired, wearing the same uniform Jada used to wear. Jada stood and smiled. "You here for help?" The girl nodded. "I just got fired for doing the right thing." Jada led her to a seat. "Well," she said gently, "that sounds like a good place to start over." And just like that, The cycle broke again. On the wall of Jada's new office hung 2 items. A photo of her and Malik, taken the week they moved into the new house. The last page of Ryder's letter, framed in glass. You reminded me who I was before the chaos. Underneath it, Jada had added her own words. Sometimes it takes one act of kindness to destroy a kingdom of cruelty. Final scene. It was Sunday. Bright, peaceful. Jada stood outside, watching Malik toss a football with a neighbor kid. Birds chirped. Her heart, for once, felt light. From her mailbox, she pulled a small black envelope. No name. No stamp. Inside, a silver necklace with a tiny gear pendant, the kind bikers wore under their cuts. No note. No explanation. Just a symbol. One that said, "We're still out here, watching." Grateful, she smiled softly, closed the mailbox, and walked back inside. She didn't need protection anymore. She had become her own shield. The end. Word count, approximately 1030 plus. Complete emotional closure. Justice delivered. Personal transformation fulfilled. Final emotional impact and life lesson. Final message, life lesson. Sometimes the smallest act of kindness, even a meal, can tear down the largest walls of corruption. And sometimes, losing everything is how you learn what really matters. The end.